So this is part two of. I'm sorry for the break. I was away for an extended period, which I'll tell you about in a second. So we're talking about the classic Tzaddik Viraloi, why the bad things happen to good people. So this is the more in-depth stage of the share. You can see the other the first part online on my video channel on YouTube. I went away to England to something called Camp Simcha. Camp Simcha has two camps in the UK. Annual retreats for the families who have got very seriously sick kids. They told me last year when I was there that really for some of them that's the high spot of their entire year. And the two camps are for parents who get kids who get cancer, Rahman al-Islam. And the one that I was at last year and this year is for parents who get kids with worse diseases than cancer. And what that means is that there are all sorts of childhood cancers that are, Baruch Hashem, completely curable, like leukemia, which is almost completely curable. But there are other diseases which are not. So I was at the camp for the ones with the other diseases. So it was extremely interesting to discover the issues of people in that very dramatic situation in life. The kids, the siblings of the very sick kids, often resent enormously their sick sibling because it's not their fault, but they suck every single moment and piece of attention from the parents. But anyway, so last year when I was there was 14 couples that wanted to speak to me after Shabbos. If you do the math, that's a bit difficult, getting 14 couples. So they were given 20 minutes each. And I think it was 4 of them from Manchester. I saw them afterwards. And so basically the first couple came in, they sat down, they told me the situation, and I got tremendous siyata d'shmaya. I said to them, and how's your marriage? And they both looked absolutely like a deer in headlights. And then they sort of, that bit when you sort of like communicate, sort of like through your peripheral vision to each other. And they both started to speak at the same time, and the husband said, well, the wife said fine, the husband said awful. And the wife got very upset. Thank you. The wife got very upset, and she said, "We're not in the rocks." And I said, "No, my dear lady, I know you're not in the rocks, but I'm trying to say that my wife, which a year ago, 6 months before, 18 months ago, fell outside the steps here and broke her shoulder. And as a consequence, sometimes she's in a lot of pain, both physically and mentally. And sometimes because she's not an angel, she shouts at me. Sometimes because I'm not a Lamed Vovnik. Well, I can reveal. I shout back in order to keep my cover. So basically, that's nothing compared to the stress that you're under. How's your marriage? So we started to talk about that. So this year, because that was such a success, and the next one that came in was the exact same thing, how's your marriage? And that was so successful. The whole theme of this week's year's Camp Simcha was looking after yourself. So Friday night was for the couples, dealing with a very sick kid as a couple, how to look after yourself. I mean, you don't have to state the obvious. I'm sure you can't look after somebody else unless you look after yourself first. And my late wife was not well. I mean, I know that from experience. You've got to look after yourself to be able to help. And then the next morning I spoke to the ladies, the wives, about looking after yourself as a wife and a mother. But then very cleverly they had put in to speak to the sisters of the sick kids. Because very often sisters get the whole thing sort of like dumped on them as the parents rush off to hospital. That was, with Siyata D'Shmaya, tremendously successful. And then the brothers got upset, why did they get the shmuz? And that was, I ended up with an extra share. It goes without saying that last year was the men, and I think there was about 60 ladies came to my women's share. 10 men came, because we guys don't need help. We guys can sort all that. But that was by the by. And then was this year's one-to-one sessions. The first was a couple, and discussed their problem. The next was a mother, not with her husband, but with her 7-year-old son. And the 7-year-old son has a genetic disorder, which means that he can't eat food properly, and if he eats normal food, he can easily die because his body can't deal with it. And because he's got all sorts of problems with his insides, nor can he go to the restroom properly. He has to wear diapers, as they say in England, nappies. And he's 7. So the mother told me that his question is, why are there all the other kids? Why are they all okay and why am I sick? The last couple, they had a very sick kid there, but the wife hadn't come out of her room the whole of Shabbos because she's got cancer. So they got an extremely sick kid, and this poor lady's got cancer. So the question was, would I go and see her in her room? So the husband took me to her room, and then it turned out that I used to teach her in seminary. Although the attrition to her appearance by having, in fact, 2 different types of cancer simultaneously. Not that it metastasized from the breast and gone to the ovaries, which is the normal path of breast cancer, but rather because she got 2 simultaneously different types of cancer, and that's hugely challenging because the chemotherapy that might destroy one might not destroy the other, might even have the opposite effect. And seeing her there was, if she were to ask the question, Sadiq Raleigh, it's difficult enough to answer that question. But what do you say to a 7-year-old kid? What do you say to a 7-year-old kid? There's a famous Gemara in the Sanhedrin, and it's in Kuf Aleph Amud Beis, or in this particular volume, or my blue marker, which I prepared, is in Kuf Aleph there. It's not there actually. Okay. Where the gold one is. So here the Gemara is talking about the fact that the Jewish children, because the parents were unable to produce the bricks in a sufficient quantity after Moshe goes at the instruction of Hashem, and says, Shlach Esami, says Hashem Yisborach, Paro, with chutzpah says, who says? The God of the Hebrews? Never heard him. Gets down the Guinness Book of World Gods, never come across him, blah, blah, fine. And therefore things get much worse. So here is the Rashi in Kuf Aleph Amud Beis. It's talking about, the Gemara is talking about this machmich bebinyan, that the bodies of the children were squished into the holes in the wall left by the insufficient tally of bricks. I always wondered about this, incidentally. Why on earth would you put a baby in? Because it's going to die, and then it'll just turn to dust. That won't do the job of a brick, but it wasn't. In order to pretend it's a brick, it was in order to punish them. Right, your child's going to die because you didn't produce enough bricks. Listen to the Rashi here. This is absolutely amazing. He says, "This machlok bebinyan shomatzrayim shenosnu hu bebinyan b'mokim levino." They put the children into the places, the gaps left because of the bricks. Could be forged by God, as the Agadah says, as the Medrash says. Sha'omar loy Moshe LaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe said to Hashem Yisborach, "Ata hariyos salam hazeh." You've done bad to the Jewish people. Sha'achshav im ein lahem levenim masimim b'neihem shal Yisrael b'binyan. Now that they don't have enough bricks, they stick the children in there. Omer lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem said to Moshe, "Kotzim him." These children are kotzim, or will be, well, kotzim literally means thorns. In English, is a phrase, thorns in the side. But the Rashi goes on to say, or quoting the Medrash, Shegola lefana, it was clear to me, ilo hayachaim hayarashayim gemurim. It was clear to me, where are they to live, these children, these particular children who were chosen? This goes back to one of our first topics about human choice versus Hashem choice. But it's clear to me, would they survive, that would cause a lot of trouble. However, if you like, says Hashem to Moshe, if you want, go and save one. Immediately he goes, and who did he take out? Micha. That's the story, that's the Rashi there. This machmich bebinyan, he was called Micha because the baby was squished into the wall. His nickname, or his real name, I'm not sure, was Micha, the squished one, because Moshe took him out from the wall and saved him. Of course, as you undoubtedly know, the Micha eventually went on to set up an idolatrous temple in Eretz Yisrael. He advertised for priests to serve in the idolatrous temple, and as the Gemara says, who answered the advertisement? Moshe Rabbeinu's grandsons. Both became Komrim, is the term, priests of Avodah Zarah. Now this is profoundly problematic. If Hashem spoke to me, if I was a Navi and said, Yehudi Yoina, I know what you're involved in at the moment is not pleasant, but don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I would say, fine, okay. I mean, I really would. The big problem in life is not seeing Hashem in your life. But when you do see Hashem in your life, and you go through tough times, I mean, if only we saw Hashem in our life through tough times, then tough times wouldn't be tough. But I would say, okay, or I'd back off. But this is Moshe Rabbeinu. And Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, and of course I'm an amoeba compared to Moshe Rabbeinu. There was nobody as great as Moshe. So if why Rubinstein could get it, why doesn't Moshe get it? Now, I have to admit, I can't remember where I saw this, but I thought the answer was brilliant. It's not that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have emunah, doesn't have faith, doesn't betochen, doesn't trust, have certainty in Hashem. It's what he's really saying is, how can I tell them? How can I explain it to them? How do you explain it to a 7-year-old boy who wants to know why all the other kids okay and not in pain, and he often is? So what I said to him was, let's call him Yankel. I said to him, because I've been briefed, you're not ill all the time, are you, Yankel? So Yankel wasn't ill, Baruch Hashem, all the time. And I know it's not nice, but can I ask you, did you like Camp Simcha? And Camp Simcha does fabulous things with the kids. They give them a lifetime's fun in just one Shabbos. Do you like it here? Oh, yeah, he likes it here. And do you like the people here? And I'm starting to mention the people, they're so nice, and more of this, and Uncle this, and Auntie this, and stuff, all the names that the helpers get. And I said, we've been here before? Yes. And did you like that? Yes. Fine. Okay. But just think, you're not ill all the time. And if you weren't ill some of the time, you wouldn't get to come to Camp Simcha. Maybe just change his perspective a little bit. Did that answer the question? Mm-hmm. How do you answer the question? So that's what Moshe is saying. I get it. I'm Moshe Rabbeinu, of course. Look. But how do I sell it to a mother with a sick kid, or how do I sell it to somebody with a wife who's got breast cancer, or how do I sell it to somebody who's lost a mother? Sadly, where am I? That's the ultimate question. As we're on the subject, I can't resist just pursuing this a little bit, although it will be relevant in just a second, and that is, this is the Gemara in Brachos. So why did Moshe do this? Why did he go and... my explanation is he's trying to, wherever I saw this, he was trying to say, I can't explain it to them, but that's not enough because he acts. Hashem says, I know what I'm doing. But if you want, you could save one. What would you do? Well, fine. You know what you're doing, and these kids are going to grow up to be evil, then fine. Nobody doesn't do that. He goes and saves one. It's not a philosophical issue here. He actually acts on this. Sorry, I've gone a bit Hezrik, as they say. The Gemara in Brachos and Daf Yud Amud Aleph says a very interesting thing here. And it's talking here, if I can find it. The king Chizkiyahu became sick. The mob was so sick he was going to die. The prophet Yeshayahu comes. Hashem says to Sav leBeisecha, write your will, inform your household. Time's up. Choose your plot. Because you're going to die, you're not going to live. What does it mean you're going to live and you're not going to die? What did you mean by that? Says the king to the Novi. Well, it means the double expression. You're not going to live and you're going to die. You don't die, you're going to live. No, you don't die, then you're dead. I'm sorry, if you don't live, then you're going to die. It's the same thing. Why the repetition? Why do you express it in such a way? What did I do wrong that provoked this? You didn't do the mitzvah Puruvah. Chizkiyahu said, I saw with my Ruach HaKodesh that I'm going to have I would have horrible children. And he famously replies, or the Navi replies, the calculation of God, what's that got to do with you? Hashem knows what's going on. That's not your job. This is the famous Gemara in Bava Metzia, Daf Tes. The machlokas between the Chacham and Rebbe Lozer as to, arguing about the kashrus of an oven, but it doesn't really matter. And then the famous Rebbe Lozer brings every single answer in the world that disproves the Chachamim's arguments, and they don't accept it. And then he does 3 or so miracles, which doesn't impress them either. So he plays his trump card. If I'm right, Baskol, a heavenly voice will say, Baskol. And it's interesting, the notion here. The Gemara there says, I suppose you and I are having an argument. I'll be Rabbi Elazar, because I've always seen myself that way. And you can be the Chachamim, okay? So suppose what happens is that I play my trump card. And my trump card is, let heaven prove it. And a voice says, it doesn't say, you're wrong in Rabbi Rubenstein. It's right. It says, what are you guys compared to Rabbi Rubenstein? The halacha is like him. Always. Something I try and tell my mother-in-law and my wife. I'm always right. And Hashem says that. What would you say? And of course we all know what happens. Then, who was it? I forgot his name. Can't remember who it was. Rabbi Shua jumps up and says, Lo b'shamayim hi. It's not, the Torah is not given in heaven. From the time the Torah has been given in here, we do what the Torah says. And now what famous the postscript of the story is, of course, the same, I think it's Rabbi Shua. I can find it quickly. I got it, yeah. Yeah, it's Rabbi, sorry. It goes to Rabbi Yirmiyahu, not Rabbi Shua. Shvar Nosna Torah Har Sinai. Einan HaMashgichim Baskal, we pay no attention to Baskals. What was the postscript? That Rabbi Nosson is going along the road and he bumps into Eliyahu and he says, how did Hashem react to this? He said, Nitzchuni b'nai, Nitzchuni b'nai. Which is normally translated as, you've beaten me, you've vanquished me, my sons, which makes no sense. But one of my Talmidim, who's now Rosh Hashiva in Yerushalayim, he brought me once back a fabulous translation. L'netzach netzachim means forever and ever. Hashem was saying, you made me immortal, my sons, you made me immortal. By the fact that you don't pay attention to Baskol, and you do what the Torah says, that makes me immortal. That's the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Here, the Gemara in Brachos, then, of course, then he's got to do what the Torah says. What do you mean? You've seen with your Ruach HaKodesh. Hashem gave you a mitzvah, Har Sinai. Have babies if you can have babies. Have children.
I won't do it.
So get on with it.
I won't do it.
Was I?
It's Bechira, I won't do it.
Oh, it's Bechira, okay. It's Bechira to eat pork. But you'll roast and toast.
Oh, that's
Right.
You can't
But
do
Miss-
this. This is.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. You can't pick and choose. You've got to do what the Torah says. And the Torah says, you've got to save a Jewish life, save a Jewish life. Hashem says, you want to save one, so he saves one. Why? But he knows, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu knows that Hashem says that they're going to be a bad parent. That's not my cheshbon. And the Gemara goes on here, incidentally, to say that who was the person he saw that was going to be that he didn't want to have? That it was going to be Menashe Melech Yisrael. However, Menashe Melech Yisrael, according to many opinions, became the quintessential Baal Tshuva. Even he did Tshuva. But it gets back to the question, how on earth do we deal with the idea of Tzaddik V'Ralei?
Did Moshe regret saving himself?
No. Moshe did the right thing.
Even after the Egel and everything?
Even after the Egel and everything.
He never regretted it.
Of course not. He did the right thing. The halacha is you save a Jewish life, you can save a Jewish life. And Hashem said you can save one. Saves one.
So why didn't he save more?
Hmm?
Why didn't he save more?
Hashem said you can save one.
You have permission to save more?
No. If you want, you can save one. I suppose you could get into an Avram Avinu type discussion. I never thought about that, maybe 10, 50, 40, 20.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, like, Hashem allowed him, but did he have the power to do it, considering Paro's policeman?
If Hashem says he can save one, that means that Hashem would save him from the power of Paro's policeman or any policeman. One was on the menu.
So he didn't have power to do more than one.
No. I assume not.
Had he had power, even though Hashem only allowed him to
No,
save one?
if he had power, he wouldn't still have. If Hashem says save one, save one. Remember, he believes in Hashem. He believes Hashem knows what he's doing. He gets that. Hashem says he can save one, he can't save one. Yeah, but still stuck with how do you answer. So there's a wonderful book by one of my heroes, me, called Jerusalem. It's the new translation, Shar B'Tochen. And in here, on page 141, I think it is, here is a discussion in chapter 3 of Shara B'Tochen when he goes into the idea of Tzaddik V'Ralei in great depth. And I thought it'd be nice to work through this. And instead, I'm not trying to sell you them, they're out of print, I have to reprint them at the moment. But however, it's really, I'm just concentrating on Shara B'Tochen. So, he starts off with the Apostle Mishli, you will not starve the righteous. So he says you probably object to this statement and point out that quite the contrary, anyone can see real tzaddikim who secure only a meager living after enormous effort. Right? I mean, the stories are full of tzaddikim who suffered enormously. At the same time, there are plenty of really bad people who live luxurious lives of pleasure. Tzaddik Baraloi. So he writes here, and this is very important. The first response to this famous and troubling question is to remind yourself that the greatest prophets and tzaddikim have grappled with it. You're not the first. Wake up and smell the coffee. You're not the first person to be upset about hearing about crib death, or a young mother gets cancer, a young husband who gets cancer. You're not the first. And yet David HaMelech and all the rest of the people he goes on to quote here still had their emunah intact on Hashem Yisborach. But let's see if we can figure this out. And he brings many, many rayas as to why this should be problematic. He says Moshe Rabbeinu's answer to this is expressed in Devarim. That's Devarim 29:28, which is Hanistoris L'Hashem Elokeinu Haniglos Lana Levanenu. So the first thing, which is basically an echo of what the Gemara said with Moshe with regard to Chizkiyahu and Yirmiyahu, which is Hashem knows what he's doing. But that's not your cheshbon. You've got to do what a human being's supposed to do, which in this case is to have children. The hidden stuff, the other agenda, oh, you're going to have a child that's no good. You can't look into the future and see everything. Incidentally, some of the greatest disasters that ever happened to Klal Yisrael came about through their ability to look into the future. When the Meraglim bring back a bad report, the Shem Yishmael says, why did they bring back a bad report? Because they could look into the future. Because when they looked into the future, they saw that the people who would be leading Klal Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael were no longer them. They'd been replaced. So that if they didn't want to be replaced, they bring back a bad report, consciously or subconsciously. But the reason that when they looked into the future that they saw the people they'd been replaced is because they looked into the future. Korach, why did Korach fight with Moshe Rabbeinu? Sorry?
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Why did Korach fight with Moshe Rabbeinu? Because he saw his children teaching Torah in Yerushalayim. What he didn't see was the whole picture that his children would side with Moshe Rabbeinu in that machlokas. So looking to the future would be a wonderful thing as long as you can see the whole of the picture, but you can't. That's only available to Hashem as well. So one answer would simply be, Hashem knows what he's doing. It's back to what he said to Moshe Rabbeinu.
There's no guarantee that if you're good, you're not going to have terrorists.
Oh,
the question is
quite the contrary. Quite the contrary.
How do we deal with it?
Absolutely. Here, let me read a little bit. Indeed, there are many who struggle with this classic question. The reason that these prophets pose the question, he brings lots of rayas. Yirmiyahu, Chavakuk, evil people surround the righteous. How can you, Hashem, remain silent when the wicked chews up and swallows those who are better than he? I mean, he brings many Nevi'im who struggled with this. So here's an answer. He says, the reason that these prophets pose the question but don't give us the answer is there's not one size fits all answer. Okay. There's a myriad of different answers why it could be that Tzaddik suffers and a Russia prospers. But he goes on just over the page to give us some of these answers. He says, jumping a bit, despite this I feel it appropriate to elaborate on this a little, to lessen the frustration and real pain the question causes. One of the main reasons that the tzaddik may have to struggle and exert himself to secure a livelihood is that it may be the consequence of a sin he did in the past. And he brings a passage from Mishli, which suggests that. So here's the Gemara in Brochus in 7a. Listen to this, see what you make of this. The Gemara there says, Moshe asked Hashem, why are there tzaddikim who have a good life and others who have a bad one? And why are there Shoim who have good lives and others who have bad ones? And Hashem answered, a tzaddik who has a good life is a tzaddik who is the son of a tzaddik. And if he has a tough life, he's a tzaddik who is the son of a Rosh. Okay. And a Rosh who has a good life is the son of a tzaddik. Has a bad life is a Rosh who is the son of a Rosh. That's what the Gemara says. Problematic, as the Gemara itself says. The difficulty with this answer is that we can see in our own times, says the author here, and certainly the long view of history, how many tzaddikim whose fathers too were great tzaddikim, like the Klausenberger Rebbe. They little living children, was that in the Holocaust? Can you say his father wasn't a tzaddik? He's a tzaddik ben tzaddik. So he shouldn't, if that formula works, then he shouldn't have suffered at all. The Talmud itself objects to that answer and offers the following answer. A tzaddik who's a perfect tzaddik, will enjoy a pain-free life. If he suffers, it means he's not a perfect tzaddik. A Rasha who prospers is not a complete Rasha, whereas one who suffers is.
A child.
Oh, wait. Before we get to child, what do you think of that answer?
It's impossible.
It's impossible. This is problematic. Because why? Shlomo Melech says, Koheles 7:20, inside about Shas, there's no such thing as a complete tzaddik. A complete tzaddik doesn't exist. Everybody's made a mistake. So if it's you're a complete tzaddik, where would you find one of those? So this is the Alshich says. The Alshich explains the Gemara that the phenomenon of tzaddikim prospering or suffering, he goes in a different direction. The Kabbalah says there's such a thing as Gilgul. The first time a soul comes into the world, it's called an Av. I used to give a serious Ashirim in Manchester for women. It was myself, somebody called Moshe Kupitz. So Zainer Fuhrstein was not well at the moment. He's the son-in-law of the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva. We were chavrusos for many years. And somebody called Diane Westheim is a big Diane in Manchester. Wonderful person, Tom Chochem. So I used to give 3 shirim, and I was sitting there waiting. It was my turn. I think I gave the last shir, I remember. And it was in the shul. There was a dusty old sefer on the shelf, and I pulled this sefer down, and literally covered in dust. And it was a Kabbalah sefer. I looked into the Kabbalah sefer, and it said something there which it really should have hit me. You know, you ever see something and you go, why didn't I think of that? I think we talked the other week about the fact that the Seres Adibros, if you look at the Seres Adibros, the Mabit says this in the Beis Hamakim, if you look at the Seres Adibros, particularly the way they're usually portrayed on top of an Or and a Kodesh, you just say, okay, Hashem Elkecha, L'asiyah, etc. 2 words, and then L'asiyah. So that makes a nice symmetry. But the Beis Hamakim says, what nonsense. There are far more words on the right-hand side, the Bein Adam Le Mokim, than the Bein Adam Le Chavera. And Achim Hashem L'kecha, etc. That was all there. There's a ton there. And then you've got L'asiyah, there's only a few words there. So it would look weird. The right-hand side would be full of letters. So he says, that's true. So the letters on the left-hand side were big, were expanded. And of course the Midrash is that Bein Adam L'Chavera is much more difficult to get right than Bein Adam L'Mokum. Interesting, because people are challenging. But why didn't I think of that? You know, sometimes it hits you and you doesn't. Anyway, so I took down the sefer, and it says, what we say in our tefillas in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Elokeinu v'Elkeinu, Ein ono oz uponim. We don't have the chutzpah, Lama lefanecha, to say in front of you, tzaddikim anachnu, we're tzaddikim, Abba ono b'avasenu, but we and our fathers are sinners. Well, I mean, I knew that. But then it discussed it. And again, just like, why didn't I think of the imbalance of the Seres Adibros, of the tablets, suddenly it hit me, as he says, if you want to stand up there in Rosh Hashanah and say to Hashem that you're a bad person, and you've failed miserably, repeatedly, during the year, Kol HaKavod, Gewaldik, Geschmack, you're into the day. You've got the idea. It's to surely you have done things wrong. Chatona, or fine. But why do you turn around and say Avo Sena Chatona? If you want to stand up there and say you've been a flop the past 12 months, good for you. But where do you go off with? I think I was bad. I see my father. Oh, joke. And my Zedi. Rosh Hashanah. I mean, we'll have to keep it up in. So it said there, and I saw this subsequently in the Al Shach HaKadosh in many places. The first time a soul comes to the world is called an Av. Any subsequent reincarnation is called a Tolda, a child of the original. Right? So that means to say that it's like, if you imagine a pipette and somebody drops a drop of water on the table, just as the drop of water hits the table, when it explodes, you must have seen those pictures. What do you see? Hundreds of little perfect droplets, replicas of the original. The first time a soul comes here is an Av. If it fulfills its potential in one go, there are 613 chalokim to the guf, 613 fractions of the soul as well. You come here the first time, let's say you're really great and you perfect half of your potential. Then the next Gilgul, so here's the first drop, the Av. The next time it comes down, it'll be half that size. Still a perfect drop, perfect replica, right? So it's a 306 and a half. Is that right? 613th soul. And then suppose you perfect half of that. Smaller again, smaller. And it can go down to the extent where it's just a 1 over 613th. Like Ikot death, crypt death, or even a stillbirth. It might be that's all the child had to do in order to perfect itself, to give the pleasure to the parents of coming to and the famous story about the Chazon Ish, and the father entered the shul, he was giving a shir, and of course people who came to the Chazon Ish shir were themselves an incredibly high madrega. And the door opened, in came a father with a son, Down syndrome boy, and the Chazon Ish looked over and he stood up. To stand up, and a Talmud Chacham comes into the room, and he just looked like an ordinary Jew, and his Talmidim were so like, maybe he's one of the Lamed Vovniks. And so they said, who is he? I said, I'm not standing up for the father, I'm standing up for the son. Which caused complete confusion. And he explained that if that neshama has been misgalgal, has been reincarnated, brought back into such a body in which it can achieve so little, there is so little that it has to achieve. Is therefore a near perfect soul. For a near perfect soul, you stand up. Right? The idea of Gilgul. So listen. So the first time the soul comes to the world is called an Av. It has to return to correct mistakes made or achieve what it failed to accomplish the last time. That generation is called a Ben or a Talda. So at Tzaddik Ben Tzaddik, that the Gemara says, at Tzaddik Ben Tzaddik, that enjoys a perfect life, is you who were at Tzaddik the last time. A Rosh, and then that's the Alshus explanation of this. But that takes us to a different address altogether. Again, we can't see that, but Hashem Yisborach says, I know what I'm doing. But from our point of view, all we see is a child is suffering. Maybe that suffering is all that it needs to do, as I said to the kid. You get good times as well, but maybe the bad times make us much better people. And Taka interesting, again the Alshach. The Alshach says something very interesting. The Pasuk in Esther says that Esther had no father or mother, and Mordechai adopted her as a daughter, as her father and mother had died. So again, we've got a repetition. She had no father or mother, and Mordechai adopted her as a daughter, as her mother and father had died. She just said that the mother had, no my father and mother. The Medrash says the repetition was that the father died the night she was conceived. Esther's father was died the night she was conceived, and the mother died giving birth to her. Okay? The completeness of her orphanhood is hinted at in the double expression. She really was an orphan. And the Alshach then says, the fact that she suffered two such devastating blows stamped the essential signature of humility on her character, which would equip her to be chosen to save Klal Yisrael. So not everything that goes bad is, at the time, it's dreadful, but we don't see it. Only Hashem sees the big picture. Read a couple of examples that he goes on to talk about.
Were you saying that on Rosh Hashanah, that's what I would say? The father
Yes. You're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Me, the Abasina, and me, the last time I was here, was Galgal in this one. Because that makes sense.
Yeah.
How are you talking to your father? How do you know what your father did? Another reason that Tzaddik might suffer, he says, is because he might not feel or have dealt enough with his generation, feel outraged enough for the things that are going wrong in the generation. Chofetz Chaim talks about this a lot. If you're a Talmud Chacham, even if you're not, like me, a Talmud Chacham, people think you're a Talmud Chacham, then you've got responsibility to act. And if they won't listen to you in your hometown of Glasgow or Manchester, wherever it is, then move to Inwood. And if they won't listen to you in Inwood, I don't know. Well, is there anywhere else? And then he says, and what about the other side of this coin? Why does Hashem bestow blessings on evil people? So he says one reason is because maybe he did good at some point in his life, and he's being rewarded for it in this world, but not in the next. Fine. And he brings rise for that. Another reason may bestow great wealth and blessings on people is to hold the wealth and trust until he gives them a child that become a tzaddik. Right? So he's giving them one. At that stage, you say, well, he's such an evil person. He's driving him out in a Rolls Royce. that he's going to have a kid, he's going to be a frum person. That's a little bit like the answer that Kiskio was given, etc. And then he says, and I love this one, sometimes wealth and success that Hashem gives an evil man is not a blessing, it's a curse. I think we discussed this in one of the previous shirim. In my role as a rabbi, the very seriously rich people I have dealt with in my life are almost always completely destroyed by the fact that they're seriously rich. In particular, if it's inherited wealth. If you're Bill Gates and you started with nothing in a garage and you built yourself up to be, the world's most rich man or one of the richest men in the world, that's geschmack. Because it's an achievement. In fact, very often when I'm writing in copies of my books, when people ask me to write something and I give them a bracha, the best bracha I can think to give anybody is, you should have a life of achievement. You should have a life of achievement. Because if you've achieved, you feel you've maximized who and what you could be. But if it's given to you as a free gift, it's a one-way ticket to mental illness. There's no challenges in life. So Bill Gates has decided, if I remember rightly, he's leaving each of his kids $5 million. I think it's $20 billion each in a charitable trust which they have to give away during their lifetime. But he said it wouldn't be good for them or for the world for them to have all that money. He's a wise person. So there's a gazillion reasons. Really, chapter 3 of the Chovos HaLevavos Sha'ar HaBitachon has to be really studied for this one. But it's not always the case that we can see it. And if we can't see it, we feel upset by it, we're distressed by it. But Hashem says, I don't know what I'm doing. But how do you explain it to the person? Well, you know what? Going through these answers, it's like, maybe. Particularly the idea of you. It's interesting. Which do you find more upsetting? Tzadik v'raloi or Rosh Hashanah?
Probably the Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, good.
Because the tzaddik, like, we all feel it's part of his.
Right.
It's part of what he goes
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
It makes him who he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how he gets
I just said Esther. I mean, that made it.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Esther talks about the suffering of Yosef Atzadik. I mean, Yosef Atzadik, wow. Betrayed by his brothers, and then he gets a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and he's successful in Potiphar's wife, and then a house, and then his wife tries to get him to commit adultery repeatedly, and she's stunningly beautiful. And he nearly gives in, but he forces himself not to, and he's still accused, he still goes to prison, and the name of Jew is dirt in Mitzrayim. Can you imagine him saying, as David Melech says, Kele Kele Lamazov Tony? I passed the test for you! And now, look at me. The fact he never at any time is against Hashem's Barach, says Rabbi Dessler, that created in him the sort of personality that could be Zoicher to the Siyata Tishmaya to save Klal Yisrael in Mitzrayim. So sometimes he goes through the tough times and it brings out the very best in you, stuff that you never knew. That's what Rashi says when Yaakov sends a message to Esav, Im Lovan Garti, Tariag Mitzvah Shemati, but Rabbi Yerucham, and Das Chacham Musa says, no, I kept mitzvahs despite being with Lovan, only because I lived with Lovan, was I able to keep the mitzvahs. It's easy to keep mitzvahs if you were born in Lakewood or Borough Park. Try keeping mitzvahs and born in Glasgow in Scotland, where I was. Or, I don't know, I just sang Shirim before I went to England in Memphis, Tennessee. At least it's a small place. It's more of a challenge. You've got to find strength within yourself that you don't have to when it's all given to you in a plate. It's not just inherited wealth can destroy you. Inherited frumkeit can destroy you. What are you going to do? Rabbi Dessler says in Miktam B'niyah that if you take a madriga that you were given by your parents and never extend it, that's worse than Avodah Zarah. It's worse than Avodah Zarah. Oh, I'm so outraged. I'm like you. I think it's a guy thing of Rosh Hashanah. That gets me. Right? Idiot! What makes you think that the fact he's got all that money in the world's a good thing for him? You want to see your kids dying of heroin overdoses and crashing their cars into walls that he gave them, you shouldn't have given them too early. B'chulu. And how many wives are you up to this time? Is your wife a happy life? It's a joke. It's a cliche. It's a Hollywood movie. Wife number 20, whatever it is. Yeah.
Part of the same game, how do you know?
Absolutely. Listen to this. I got this. I can't remember where I got this from. I heard it was a rabbi I was teaching in Denver, Colorado once, and he read this out. I think it was Y.Y. Jacobson quoted this. It's from him, but really he took it from Ger, as you'll see, obviously. Something like Nosson Shapiro, who lived in Pogrovin, and Poland, he says, died 1614, Krakow, Poland. Writes that the 4 Hebrew letters of the name Elul, here's Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed, is the acronym of the 4 words Aaron, Luchais, V'Shivri, Luchais. Aaron, Luchais, the Aaron, the Ark, the Luchais, the tablets of stone, and the broken tablets of stone. Okay. These words, quote from the Talmud, means the Ark was broken, the Luchais are broken, and the broken bits were put in the Ark as well. Fine. So, the question obviously is, what's the connection between the broken Luchais and Elul? What's one got to do with the other? Okay. So he says here a story of a Gerach Hasidim who had gone through the camps. Now there was a quarter, hundreds of thousands of Gerach Hasidim were killed in Auschwitz, and of course there's famous testimony of people who saw them dancing to the gas chambers. They were going to die al Kiddush Hashem. They danced because they were doing that mitzvah. Anyway, there was one of his Hasidim who went off the derech completely, and as the Satmarov said, you wouldn't have to, and the Belzerov said as well, Jews who went through the camps and didn't keep Torah and mitzvahs would not have to subsequently give din v'cheshbon. It was too big in the soil for any one person. This guy got off the derech, but it troubled him, and he came back to discuss with the Ger Rebbe, and of course he lost family members, and it's actually 250,000 Gerach Hasidim were estimated to be killed by the Nazis. Fine. So they sat and they cried for a long time. And then he said the following thing. So the Pasuk says that the Luchais, which were destroyed before your eyes, Devarim in Tes Zayin. Vashberim le'nechem. I broke them, says Moshe Rabbeinu, in front of your eyes, he says to Klal Yisrael. So listen to this. In his farewell address to his people, Moses recounts the moment when he descended from Mount Sinai with his 2 divine tablets to present the Jewish people. I descended from the mountain, and the mountain was still burning with fire, etc., etc. I grasped the 2 tablets, threw them down from my hands. I smashed them before your eyes. Okay. And then, of course, he goes up and he gets Hashem to give the other 2 sets of the Luchais. The question is, therefore, why to say I smashed them before your eyes? To say I smashed them, what's this before your eyes? This is what the Ger Rebbe wrote. What Moses was saying, explains the Rebbe of Ger, was I smashed the tablets only before your eyes. The shattering of the tablets occurred before your eyes and from your perception. In reality, though, listen to this, there exists a world in which the tablets have never been broken. What Moses was attempting to communicate, the Rebbe of Ger explained, is that what seems to us as pure destruction and chaos does not always capture the complete story. I smashed them only before your eyes, and you think they're smashed. Before your eyes there may be nothing but destruction, devastation, yet in what in our world bespeaks total disaster may in a different world be wholesome and complete. And then he said to this Chosid, as inexplicable as it may seem, there is meaning in the absurdness of history. There is dignity in the volley of tears. The wholesome Hashem who transcends all human logic and imagination, and compared to us as evil and cruel, is present in every human experience. God was present in the gas chambers and the crematorium. He was being gassed, as it were, together with the 2 million holy Jewish children. As if he was present, their brutal deaths could not be the end of the story. If he was present, their brutal deaths could not be the end of the story. As hard as it is, he said to this Chosid, for you and I to believe, I want you to know that the decimation of our families, our communities, and our people only occurred before our eyes. There remains a world in which the Jewish people are whole. Beneath the surface of our perception exists a reality in which every single Jew, from Avram to our present day, is profoundly alive. Today, all of this cannot be understood. Why even one child needs to suffer. We do not believe that we have an answer, but the day will come soon. He said, the Ger Rebbe, when all this other world will be exposed, and God will transform our perceptions and paradigms. He will mend our broken tablets and our broken nation. They will discover how the tablets were really never broken, and Jewish people were always complete. Wow. We can't see that. If we understand ourselves really, and we really are amoebas, specks of dust in the universe, and Hashem is Hashem, then there could be stuff going on that we just don't get. that's really what Amunah and Betochen is. To know that you are not going to understand, as Moshe said, the hidden stuff you're not going to get. You just have to know that Hashem knows what He's doing. And what might seem to us to be pain might ultimately have a good purpose, even in our world. But there could be other perceptions beyond our world, which are our reality as well, even though we don't see them. Deep stuff. It's certainly important, as we said in the first year, to alter somebody's perception when they're in pain. Of course, if you're in pain, don't forget the halacha. If you go to a Shiva house, the halacha is, of course, you don't speak to the Avelim unless they speak to you. Speaking to them could cause them more pain. They might just not want to hear. I knew somebody whose son was killed in tragic circumstances in Yerushalayim, and the entire week he sat Shiva like this, his head down, looking at the ground. And hundreds of people came because they were very upset and distressed by this terrible patira. At the end of the week, it was Friday morning, they got up from Shiva, and then the whole family gathered together it was in Harnof in Bat Yagan. They all gathered together for Friday night meal. And sitting at the top of the table, the daddy said what a huge comfort it was to him that so many people had come to the Shiva. And his kids, including his married kids, were astonished. He just sat like that the whole week. They didn't think he'd noticed or realised or understood that so many people were there. But it was a big comfort to him. There is enormous comfort in just being there, even without words. Sometimes words rob somebody of the... And if you're not going to understand it, then just don't say it. But the truth is that there are things here that words, there's realities which are obviously beyond words or beyond our perception. In this world, it seems to be, but who knows, even in our own life, that the tough times that we go through. I wrote a book, as you know, my late wife died of breast cancer. I wrote a book called The Little Book for Big Worries, Dealing with Serious Illness. It's not Gaiva, but it's helped thousands of people. Thousands of people. There was one fellow, was a lovely fellow, come to my sharing, he had cancer. And he was, he slept on for about 3 years. And I didn't know that he'd come to my sharing. But anyway, somebody gave him a copy of this book. And the book was written for people looking after sick people, not for sick people. And so, but he got the book, and then he went, which the book didn't sell in the stores at all. I think I told you this, because it said the word illness in the cover. A little book for big words, dealing with serious illness. So Jude picked up and went, because he said the word, you see the word illness, you're going to become sick. But there's almost none left. Because, like this fellow, this guy got the book and he went out and bought 50. And when he went to Sloan Kettering for his cancer treatment, for his chemotherapy or radiotherapy, he went round the waiting room and said, "You Jewish?" And he gave each person a book. And after he'd given away 50, he bought another 50. If I remember rightly, I may the figure's wrong, but I think it was something like 500 copies. He gave away before he passed on. And there's another couple of people like that. But almost every ill person who got it went and bought at least 10 or something to give to other people. And that's why it didn't sell in the stores, but there's almost none left. And it's helped thousands of people. Now, because the book understands dealing with a sick person, because that was me for 5 years. Now, if you were to ask me, would I volunteered for the experience that would have qualified me to write this book? Because the answer is no. I would have volunteered for the exact opposite experience. And yet, having gone through that, releases or can allow you to discover, as we all have got that possibility when we go through tough times, discover greatness and potential in yourself you never would have volunteered to see, and maybe didn't even know it was there. So who's to say that even in our own world where we can see things, every bad thing is ultimately a bad thing? The Biada Rebbe said, this week said, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Har Sinai, and he sees Hashem, and Hashem's wearing tefillin. Which bit of the tefillin did he see? The knot at the back of the head. Now, of course, there's something wrong with this. First of all, to wear tefillin, you need two things. Tefillin and the head, and Hashem has neither. So what was the message being given to Moshe Rabbeinu? The Biada Rebbe says, brilliantly, you only see Hashem looking back the way. How many times have we said in our own lives, just sitting around the table here, at the time, I thought it was the worst possible thing that could happen. It's a cliche. But now, so even in our own lives, sometimes we get a perspective to see things that at the time of the pain we couldn't possibly have seen, and go on to discover greatness. But there are things we never see. But Hashem knows what He's doing, which is exactly what He said to Moshe Rabbeinu. But if you want, you can save one. And that didn't work out well for him. Ultimately, there's a time, says the Ger Rebbe, when we'll see the whole thing, and the ones that we thought were in pain aren't in pain anymore.